Alright, this is Chapter 8, Lessons 1 and 2 on circles. So a couple things to remember about circles. Circumference is a name for what we consider perimeter when we're dealing with polygons, but this is the circumference, the distance around. Area, remember area is how many square units it takes to cover something, completely cover it, and so that would be called the area. Some things that you need to know also are special measurements of a circle. From the center point to any point on there is equidistant, and that distance is called the radius. So it's a radius from any point on the side to the center, and a diameter is all the way across the circle going through its center. So we have diameter, radius. Of course, to go from a radius to a diameter, you double it. To go from a diameter to a radius, you just cut it in half, divide it by 2. Okay. The one measurement that you're going to need to memorize, pi. And pi, all it is really, it's the diameter of a circle divided by its, it's the circumference of a circle divided by its diameter. Any circle that you measure across and measure around and divide it, you're going to get the same thing. This 3.14 is approximately what it is. It's one of those irrational numbers that never ends, never repeats. We can also estimate it with 22/7, but remember, those are both estimates. So we'll just kind of keep track, and we'll either use 3.14 or 22/7. All right. Oh, I guess I should tell you the two formulas. The formula for circumference of a circle is pi times diameter, and the formula for the area of a circle is take the radius, square it, which means times itself, take it times pi. So let's do a couple. This first lesson, this is the page 616, the guide to practice, where you're actually finding just circumference, but we're going to go ahead and find the circumference and area of each one. So I'm going to draw quick pictures because I suggest you do that. The diameter is 3. So if the diameter is 3, I could cut that in half to find the radius, which would be 1.5. Now I'm going to use my formulas. I want the circumference. So the circumference equals pi times diameter. So one way you could do that is you could take the diameter, 3, times pi, and this is what is called pi notation. The circumference is 3 pi. But if you actually work it out and take 3.14 times 3, you get 9.42. It'd be 9.42 units around this circle. To find the area, well, area equals radius squared pi, so let me find the radius, 1.5. When I take 1.5 times itself, that's squaring it, I get 2.25. So I could say the area is 2.25 pi. That's pi notation. That's one way to write it. If we actually worked it out, we'd take 2.25 times 3.14, and you would get 7.065. And these are squares we're covering in it, so units squared. Area will always be in units squared. Circumference will always just be in units. Okay? Let's try that next one. And the second one says a radius of 14. So remember, that's the radius. So if the radius is 14, the diameter would be double that, times 2 is 28. So if I wanted the circumference, pi times diameter, that's the 28, so 28 pi is one way to write it. I could also take that 3.14 times 28, and you would get, to go around that circle, is 87.92 units. Okay? To find the area, remember, area equals radius squared pi, so I'd take 14, and I would square it. Remember, that's times itself. I get 196. So 196 pi, that's how it is in pi notation. If I go ahead and take 196 times 3.14, I will get 615.44 in its area, so units squared. Next one. I'm not going to do all these now that I look at it. This is a lot of work just to show you the same thing over and over again, so I'll do one more. Maybe two more. I'll do one more diameter, one more radius. All right, so diameter is 20, so the radius is 10. So if I want the circumference, remember that's pi times diameter. 20 is the diameter, so 20 times pi, there it is in notation, or in pi notation. Let me take 20 times 3.14, and you get 62.8 units around this thing. If I want the area, remember that's radius squared, so 10 times itself is 100. 100 pi, that's in pi notation. Or I can take 100 times 3.14, which gets you 314 units squared. Do one more like that. Okay, this one has a radius of 7, so once again, if the radius is 7, then the diameter would be twice that, 14. Okay, so let me go ahead and find the circumference. That's pi times diameter. Pi times the diameter, which is the 14 one. Make sure you use the right one. There it is in pi notation. Or I can take 14 times 3.14, get 43.96 units around that thing. Remember, circumference, just units. And then I can find the area by doing radius squared. Remember, the radius is the 7, so 7 times itself is 49 times pi. There it is in pi notation. Okay, I'm going to go with now doing it, and when you take 49 times 3.14, you get 153.86, and that would be units squared, because we're talking about covering it in squares. Even though it's a circle, we cover it in squares to find the area. So I don't think I'm going to do page 626 because we talked about that. Just maybe review real quickly. Circumference is the distance around. It's in units. Area is the number of squares it takes to cover it. That's in units squared. The diameter goes all the way across through the center. The radius goes from the center to a point on the circle. So you could divide by 2 to go from a diameter to a radius, or you can multiply by 2 to go from a radius to a diameter. And then, of course, the number you need to memorize, 3.14 is approximate pi, 22/7 is approximate pi.